Welcome to Leadership Rewired with Allison Allen, the podcast where we cut through the noise and talk about what leading really takes. No sugarcoating, no jargon, just real conversations, hard earned insights, and practical wisdom to help you lead through change. Build the cultures that work and stay human while doing it. Let's get into it.
The board wanted an answer. The executive team had a plan. The pressure from all sides was mounting. And the CEO said, no, not no, we're not going to do it. Most leaders think their job in that moment is to decide, to give people certainty. But what if the real leadership move is refusing to answer until the question is actually ready to be answered? I'm Allison Allen, and this is Leadership Rewired, where we talk about what actually happens when you're leading complexity, not what's supposed to happen. Today, we're unpacking another misunderstood aspect of senior leadership: the difference between speed and judgment, between answering fast and answering well. Because leadership isn't about having the answer first, it's really about holding the question long enough for the right answer to emerge. Here's what was happening in that boardroom. The company had just gone through another acquisition. 6 months in, it wasn't going well. Integration timelines were slipping. Key people were leaving, people they'd actually specifically acquired the company to retain. The executive team was scrambling, and the board was not happy. They called an emergency meeting, and the room had filled with energy, that same energy you often see. People sitting up straight, silence before someone speaks, carrying tons of weight. One board member, let's call him David, spoke first. We need to announce the restructure. We need to show the market we're taking action. We need to move. How many times have you heard that? The CEO had anticipated this. Her team had prepared a restructure plan. It was logical, it made sense on paper, consolidated teams, flattening reporting lines, and cut redundancy. But something wasn't sitting right for her. She looked at the plan, then she looked at David and she said, we have a plan, but I don't think it's solving the right problem yet. The room tensed. Another board member jumped in. What are we waiting for? The market is watching. Every week we wait, we lose ground. And this is where most leaders fold. The pressure in that moment is immense. Your board is pushing, your investors are nervous, your team wants direction, and you are holding the plan that's about 80 or 85% there. Every instinct is screaming, just decide. But she didn't. She said, we're addressing the symptoms we can see, but we haven't diagnosed the actual problem yet. If we announce this restructure now, we'll be doing it again in another 6 months. And I'd rather be right once rather than fast twice. That line didn't make the board happy, but it reframed the moment. She wasn't avoiding the decision, she was refusing to make it before it was ready. Of course, David pushed back. So, what are you proposing? We should just wait? She said, no, we learn fast. I'm asking for 6 weeks. We'll talk to the people doing the work. We'll map where their decisions are breaking and why. Then we'll restructure, but we'll do it right. The room didn't love it, but they actually couldn't argue with logic. 6 weeks is all she's asking for. Here's what matters most about that moment. She didn't say, I don't know. She didn't apologize for needing more time. She said the question isn't ripe yet. And that reframe is everything. Because decisiveness works until complexity exceeds the space at which you can responsibly answer. That's when decisiveness without patience becomes recklessness, and confidence without discernment becomes arrogance. So, what does she do with those 6 weeks? This part matters because patience without action just looks like delay. She and her team went 2 levels down in the organization. They talked to the people actually doing the integration work: project managers, product leads, regional director. And they asked one question over and over: where are decisions actually breaking? Not where do you think they're breaking? Where are things really getting stuck? What they found surprised them. The problem wasn't headcount. It wasn't reporting lines. It wasn't even culture. It was decision rights, as we see in most companies. No one knew who owned what. So every decision became a negotiation. Every conflict escalated. Every project moved at the speed of consensus instead of execution. And the restructure they almost announced, it would have made things worse because it reorganized people without clarifying ownership. So what did they do? They rewrote the plan. They clarified decision rights first. They mapped ownership. They built a visible decision framework. And when they announced the restructure 6 weeks later, it looked nothing like the one they almost rushed with. Not perfect, but right for right now. It addressed the real problems, not just the visible symptoms. Research backs this up. Leaders who can sit inside uncertainty without flinching, who can hold the question longer than others can tolerate, are perceived as having more authority, not less. Patience paired visible action reads as strategic discipline, not hesitation. The key is, what do you do while you hold? She didn't pause, she processed. There's a difference between holding the question and avoiding it. So, if this works, why don't more leaders do it? First, speed feels like decisiveness. We are conditioned to believe that fast answers signal strength. But in complex environments, speed is often just premature certainty. Second, waiting feels risky, especially when you're in front of a board. There's a fear that if I don't answer this immediately, people will lose confidence in me. But what actually erodes trust isn't patience, it's undoing decisions made too fast. And lastly, the pressure to move is louder than the risk of moving wrong. The board is pushing, the market is watching, everybody wants something. And action without clarity is just noise. Here's a reframe that I love for you to consider. Instead of saying, I don't know yet, say, the question isn't ready to be answered responsibly. Instead of apologizing for time, say, we're not pausing, we're processing. Tie patience back to stakes. If we answer this fast, we'll answer it shallow. She didn't make waiting personal, she made it strategic. That's how patience becomes authority. When you hold the question, when you visibly refuse to rush, you teach your organization how decisions get made at your level. You teach them that complexity deserves time, that urgency isn't the same as importance. And over time, behavior shifts. People stop escalating half formed problems. They bring better questions. They think through before they rush you because they've learned this leader rewards judgment. Here's the hard part: you can't fake this. If you're holding the question but panicking internally, people will feel it, and it undermines everything. Holding the question requires trusting that clarity emerges with space. That patience isn't delay, it's discipline. So here is the practical test. The next time you feel pressure to decide something, ask yourself, if I answer this now, am I solving the real problem or just relieving my discomfort? If it's the latter, hold. And while you hold, act visibly. Run a scenario, test an assumption, talk to people closest to the work. And when someone asks, what are we waiting for? Say, we're not waiting. We're making sure the answer can survive contact with reality. Impatience makes decisions. Patience makes outcomes. That CEO eventually announced the restructure. It worked, not perfectly, but sustainably. And when the next crisis hit, her team didn't panic. They'd learn the rhythm. We hold the question until it's ready. Leadership isn't about having the answer first, it's about holding the question long enough for the right answer to emerge. In a world that rewards speed, that's one of the most undervalued capacities we ask of leaders. So the next time you feel pressure to decide fast, ask yourself, is this question ripe enough to answer responsibly? And if it's not, what are we going to do? Hold it. Even when the board is pushing, even when the room wants certainty, even when it's uncomfortable, because that's what leadership looks like at this level. If this resonated, you can find me on LinkedIn or at leadershiprewired.com. And if you're navigating this exact tension right now, reach out. This is the work that I do. Thanks for listening. As always, lead with clarity, change with confidence.
Thanks for listening to Leadership Rewired with Allison Allen. If today's episode hit home, share it with a leader who needs it. And if you want more truth talk leadership insights, subscribe wherever you listen, follow me on LinkedIn, and keep leading with clarity even when it's hard. See you next time.